When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Red, your lunchtime catch-up on all things Liverpool FC on a Friday on which nothing is happening. There's not a whole lot going on because there's just not a whole lot to go on. It's very early in the transfer window. Nobody is doing much of anything. I think Chelsea have signed Tosin Adarabioyo. Palace have agreed a deal for Chadi Riyad. And other than that, I don't think anything else has really taken place. So for people who are losing their mind that we haven't done anything yet, might just be a time to calm yourself down. On This Is Anfield, there is a piece leading the page about Conor Bradley. Piece is written by Joanna Durkin. It is very good, so do give that a read. I would always, of course, just urge caution with young players. Like Conor had a really, really good season, and there's a lot of promise there, and hopefully he can continue to develop and have another strong season in the year ahead of us, and then the year after that, and eventually maybe develop into a first-team player, or, you know, he becomes a really good squad player. But if he has a rough run of games, can we all just not jump on him and write him off? And the same I would say for Jarrell Quansah, and any other young player that's going to appear over the next couple of years. Just give them time to become players. Don't rush them. Don't try and force it. Let's stop seeing suggested 11s for next season with Bradley, Quansah and Besetic in them, or any of them in them, to be quite honest. Let's allow these players to develop at the right pace. Because they do all have a lot of talent, as do others like Trainiani, Abed Doak, obviously, Kate Gordon, but they'll take time. So let's just wait on that. David Lynch has said that Liverpool have shot down suggestions. They have launched a bid for Atalanta midfielder Ederson. Reports emerged from Europe on Thursday stating that the Reds had agreed a deal in the region of 40 million. Now, the reports that most people saw suggested they were ready to bid in that region, or that they were close to agreeing terms on a deal that could cost that much. But James Jimbo Pierce has said that he believes that's not the case. David Lynch on This Is Anfield and Lewis Steele in the Mail have both said that they've been told Ederson does not feature highly on the short list of potential signings. Now, here's what I'll say, and this is no knock against any of these journalists. when I see senior sources, I have to ask questions because most of the senior football staff are brand new in the building or have been there before and are noted for not talking to the local journalists. So it does narrow down who it could be. Who's the senior source? Perhaps a Barry Hunter, a Dave Fallows, somebody like that. But I would imagine the group of people who actually know who we're targeting is very, very small. And regardless of whether or not Ederson is high on the list of targets, they're not going to be telling anybody at this point. He is a very good player. He would be a great fit for us. He would be a great addition into our team and fill a significant need for us. But whether or not anything comes of it, we'll have to wait and see. There's a piece here about Euro 2024 and whether it's a blessing or a curse. It's obviously tough for the new manager who's walking into a situation where his pre-season is going to be disrupted. Now, Jurgen in 2016, which was his first pre-season, obviously dealt with a similar issue. I don't think we had as many players because we were not a very good team going into that summer. So Jurgen was already beginning the process of changing quite a lot. Now, obviously, 5 players arrived that summer, 3 starters. I think we will see similar enough this summer, but we've got more players at the Euros, so that'll be less coaching time, less time to adapt to a new system, but I still think it'll be fine. Look, the players are that good that I think they're going to be very malleable and very easy to slot into, no pun intended, to fit into the way Arne Slot wants us to play. Really, really good piece by Sam Milne, which is the latest edition of My Liverpool Life, where he caught up with Gordon Wallace and George Scott, who were Liverpool players back in the early 60s under Bill Shankly. There is an accompanying video. I recommend all of it. It's tremendous, and Sam does very good work. There's a piece about Joe Gomez, a piece about Mo playing at Travella, and a Liverpool forward making a senior debut. That is a senior international debut. Of course, it is Lewis Koumas who made his debut for Wales, and congrats to him on that. Highly rated Feyenoord coach plays down chances of Liverpool move. This is their goalkeeping coach, Jiri Nieminen, who I assume is Finnish, and he's played down the likelihood of a move. The Liverpool thing was on, and of course I was thinking about it. With a very high probability, I will continue at Feyenoord. The situation will change if it changes. He is very highly regarded. He's done exceptional work with the Feyenoord goalkeepers. It's a shame if we can't land him, but we do obviously need to land another goalkeeping coach. Obviously, Taffarel is remaining at the club, and maybe it's just Taffarel that takes on that role. That might be something that makes sense, but we might as well wait and see how it plays out. Premier League clubs have voted to keep VAR with 6 improvements. We'll be the judge of whether they're improvements. What else do we have? What Liverpool owners have said about Man City's unlawful rules, so do check those out. Do check that piece out. It is quite a good memory jog that Sam has done, looking back at what FSG have said over the years about, financial fair play and profit sustainability and stuff. Klopp deals VAR vote and Michael Olise 60 million transfer claim. So a report by James Smales, who writes for Leeds Live, has said that Liverpool are no longer interested in Crescencio Somerville, which I think has always been an obvious thing, considering he was most likely a Klopp and Linder's target, very unlikely to reach the threshold of what Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes would be looking for. And he has said that the situation that could play out is that we would sign Michael Olise, and then Palace would move for Somerville. Now, the piece here says, on the face of things, it seems hard to believe Liverpool would spend 60 million on Olise, who missed Premier League matches last season with hamstring injuries. I don't think the injuries are something that will hugely concern Liverpool, because if you look at Michael Olise's career, he'd never been injured prior to last season. He suffered an injury at the European Under-21 Championships, missed a bunch of time, was struggling, was taken out of the team in January and rested because they only had the one league game. I think he missed the cup games as well, but Palace, it was like the Everton game in the FA Cup and then the replay. So he missed 3 games in January because he was rested to try and work back through, some of the lingering injury issue from what had happened in the summer. He'd been spectacular once he came back from said injury the first time around. Then he got hurt again because Hodgson was told, having played him heavy minutes against Sheffield United, not to play him against Brighton. And Hodgson brought him off the bench and he got hurt again. And you speak to people that know their ins and outs about Palace, and that was sort of either the straw that broke the camel's back, or maybe just even the primary reason that Palace decided to get rid of Roy at that point. So he was gone. Olise missed 7 games, came back, and was just outstanding to end the season. Like, he's had an immense year. He only played 1,300 minutes in the Premier League, 19 games. Of those 19 games, 5 were appearances off the bench. One of them was an 11-minute on and then off, where he got re-injured. He scored 10 goals with 6 assists this past season, which is incredible productivity. The previous season, 22-23, playing for a very defensive Palace team, he had 2 goals but 11 assists in 37 league matches. So no injuries to be concerned about there. In the 21-22 season, bearing in mind he was 20, turned 20 in the December of this year, began it as a 19-year-old, 4 goals and 9 assists in 1,500 minutes. Not due to injury, just due to being a young player being gradually brought along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11 starts is all he made that year in the league, as well as 4 in the FA Cup, and he played in a game in Premier League too as well, but that's irrelevant. But, still put together the numbers. 2 goals and 5 assists in 1,100 Premier League minutes, 2 goals and 3 assists in less than 400 FA Cup minutes. And then the season before that, where he's playing for Reading in the Championship at the age of 18 to begin the season, 19 midway through, he plays 44 games, about 3,300 league minutes, 7 goals and 12 assists. Primarily, it should be pointed out, playing as a 10, which is where I've suggested we should buy him for, because he's perfect to be the 10 for any slot, with Mo on the right, Dominic on the left, Darwin as the 9, Alexis and a 6, or a defensive midfielder, in the double pivot. Absolutely perfect. Previous season, then he was only a kid. He played about 1,100 championship minutes, 1 assist, but he was 17 starting that season. He did play quite a bit of Premier League too, 810 minutes, 4 goals and 3 assists. Proved himself to be far, far too good at that level. But he'd never had an injury before this past season. There was an inflammation of his foot, which is not an injury, that caused him to miss 2 games in 21-22. He was rested for a game at Reading. Rest, it's not injury. Lovely rest. And then he missed no games at all. Now, if you're a silly person that doesn't actually follow the games and doesn't pay attention to what's going on, then you would be excused for looking at transfer market and seeing 22-23 season, 13 games missed. But he didn't miss 13 games. Played every game. Wasn't injured at all. Missed 1 league game. But he wasn't injured. He was just rested. So no injuries at all until this past season. And yeah, I mean, getting an injury and then it reoccurring isn't ideal. But it's also not, it says here the first injury kept him out from June until November. They could have brought him back quicker. That's already been made clear, but they were trying to make sure that it wouldn't reoccur, which is also why they took him out of the firing line in the January for 3 games. And then he got re-injured because Roy wouldn't listen to people. Now, what we know about Arne Slot is that he does listen to the medical professionals. In fact, he empowers them to have decision-making options. So I think Michael Olise would make all the sense in the world for us. I think he's going to be a superstar, and I think he's certainly someone we should be very much looking to sign this summer. Dominic Solanke allegedly has a 65 million release clause in his contract, and Liverpool have a 20% sell-on. I would imagine that sell-on is on the profit, so they bought him for 20, 21, 19 rising to 21, something like that. And that means that 45 million of that will be profit, or 44 million. So we could be in line for 20% of that, which wouldn't be a bad sum of money to add to the pot. You know, if he goes for 65, that would be, well, potentially 9 million for us, or thereabouts, which would be, you know, a very nice little bonus amount to throw in. Maybe there's another Andy Robertson out there that Michael Edwards can bring to the club. We can get 5 great years out of, and then a couple other years.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Shaping up, Liverpool just got double boosted. Could hint at how Arne Slot's first starting 11 will look. Yeah, I mean, it would make sense with Bonsa now having the summer off, Jones having the summer off. It would make sense that they might start next season in the team. There's a lot of rumours going around about Bruno Guimaraes. I wouldn't pay a whole load of attention to any of that. There's a piece about FSG. Slot needs to upgrade on Liverpool pair. 5 transfer targets stand out. You'll have a look at this, but I see a picture of Jonathan Morley, which leads me to believe that this will be utter nonsense. There's a piece about Solanke, a piece about Gomez, a piece about Lenny Yoro, a piece about Alexis. James Pearce shot down the story that was going around that Alexis might have a buyout clause. Liverpool record breaker tipped for wonderful future by Jurgen Klopp becomes free agent at 26. That is Shea Ojo. who, like, this is a prime example of what I was talking about earlier. Like, when we signed him when he was 14, we paid £2 million for a 14-year-old. At 17, 18, he did look like he was going to have a big future. And look, he's had a career, you know, fair play to him. He's still a professional footballer. He will get signed this summer. Somebody will sign him. It might be a League One team. It might be a team in Scotland. It might be a team on the continent where he's shown a willingness to go in the past. Obviously, I think he spent last season on loan in Belgium. I remember, didn't he have a loan in France? Yeah, he was at Reims for a season, a half a season. So he's shown himself to be willing to move. But his career hasn't panned out the way it was expected to pan out. And look, I hope wherever he lands next, he does really well, because he's a really talented footballer. And he seems like a decent kid as well. Arne Slot needs to upgrade on Liverpool. Here we go. Right. So what genius does Jonathan Morley have for us? So we're looking to upgrade.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Let's see. There's a feeling that a new central defender will be needed, but I don't buy into that idea. There are still 4 very good options. Right, well, let's go through them one by one. Virgil's 33 and needs to be played less. Ibu's injury prone. Qualls is completely unproven. Less than half season of Premier League games. I know he played across the full season, but look how many games he played. Does not make you proven. And Joe Gomez hasn't been good at centre-back in 4 years. So, no, there are not 4 good options. If Costa Simicas decides to stay, the full-back options are well-stocked too. Left-back isn't. Not even a little bit. I mean, Gomez was good there last year. None of us want Joe as the starting left-back. We undeniably need a starting left-back because Andy Robertson has declined drastically. Wataru Endo has been a good signing, but it may be a position that Liverpool need to upgrade. So he's gone for Ederson, João Palhinha, and Douglas Luiz, who's not a defensive midfielder in any way, shape or form. And wouldn't fit into our midfield at all. Him and Alexis in midfield would both quite slow, both ball dominant, both quite small. That's just a shocker of an idea. That's the prime example of a fellow who just doesn't watch football, but yet gets paid to talk about it because people are idiots. Douglas Luiz is not a defensive midfielder, and it's notable that Villa started to fall apart at the seams when Boubacar Kamara, who is the defensive midfielder there, got injured, and Douglas Luiz was forced to play a position that he's not very good at. And go back and listen to the Villa podcast or any Aston Villa podcast before they signed Kamara, when Luiz was filling in that role, and listen to them slate him on a weekly basis. Because he's not good at it. So that's a stupid idea. João Palhinha is a good player. His age means we're not going to sign him. Ederson's good. But what this fella's done is he's just taken someone that's been linked, and 2 players that are prominent in the Premier League, and he thought, oh, that's good options. And then in attack, he's talking about a new winger. So his options are Kudus and Somerville, 2 players that have been linked with us already. Utter nonsense. Kudus is a good player, without question. A very good player. He's a tremendous dribbler. But the productivity is lacking. The numbers don't suggest he can immediately scale up to what we would look for. And yes, he did score 14 goals last season. But he only scored 8 in the Premier League. And he went a long time without scoring. So, for what West Ham would ask for, which is minimum 85 million, which is the buyout clause that kicks in for his contract next year, and the fact that they don't want to sell him, and probably won't sell him now that Paquette is facing a ban, it just doesn't stack up. That's not an £85 million player in terms of productivity, as good as he is. And if we could sign him for 50, 55, even 60, you'd be thrilled. But not at 85. And then Somerville. Name me the Championship winger who's moved to a top 6 club and worked out. Name me anyone. As your brain whirs, just let me tell you, there isn't one. But there's been loads of Championship wingers and forwards that have put up the same or better numbers than him, come into the Premier League and absolutely stank the place out. Somerville's a Premier League calibre player. Not for a top 6 club. A mid-table club, a Palace, a West Ham, ideal. The idea of him as a Liverpool signing is nonsensical. But this piece gets further nonsensical. For me, Liverpool's Dutch players, Cody Gakpo and Ryan Gravenberch, will kick on under Arne Slot. Why? Why will they kick on? Explain to me why they'll kick on. What's the logic behind your thinking? And if the logic includes, well, the manager's Dutch, you have no reasoning. Do they fit into how Arne Slot plays? Not really. Neither of them. Gravenberch can't play in a double pivot and isn't the type of number 10 that Slot uses. Gakpo can play wide in a 4-2-3-1, but doesn't have the pace and burst that Arne Slot normally likes in his wide players. So why will they kick on? And Somerville's development could be aided by joining the contingent. I mean, there's just no logic behind that at all. There's no sense in what he's laid out there. None. Somerville is a good player. He would be a good buy for Crystal Palace. He would be a good buy for Everton, for Fulham, for Brentford, for Brighton even, though he wouldn't get in the Brighton team. Not over Matoma. He doesn't make sense for us. He doesn't make sense for us. In the same way, like I've seen people say, oh, Olise and Morton came from the Championship. Yeah, at 19. At 19, and they moved to a mid-table team. And they developed there. And that's why. And yeah, Wharton's only had 6 months at Palace, but Wharton doesn't walk into Liverpool and immediately be first choice because we've got Alexis McAllister, we've got Curtis Jones. I think he will be a better player, quite frankly, than either of them. But right now, he's a better passer than Curtis. He's not a better all-rounder than Curtis. Right now. He's going to be a great player. I'd love us to buy him. But it would mean Alexis plays as the 10, rather. Because an Alexis-Wharton pairing's not getting you anywhere. When he's at Palace, Will Hughes does the dog work. Lerma does the dog work. In the last game of the season, Guehi played as the holding midfielder. Because that's not what Wharton is. He's not a defensive midfielder. He's your metronome in there. He's your controller in there. Now, he is good defensively, and if you put him with a big, powerful, athletic, box-to-box type of player, he can sit in, especially in a back three, when he's got a back three behind him. I don't know if I trust him with just two centre-backs behind him, and the full-back's gone forward and his midfield partner gone forward. But with three centre-backs behind him, you'd be okay with him sitting in front, as long as you knew the wing-backs and the midfield partner were coming back to help. But he's not a defensive midfielder, so he couldn't play with Alexis. But he could. We'd be great on the ball. We just wouldn't be very good in transition defensively. But Wharton is someone that at 18 you could tell there's something different about him. Like when him and Tyler Morton played with each other at Blackburn, it was very clear that Morton was playing at the right level for his talent. And Wharton was destined for top clubs. But there's a path to getting there. And part of that path is a stop at Crystal Palace. Because if he'd moved to a top 6 club in January, he wouldn't have been playing regularly at the Premier League level. So even if he moves on this summer, that 6 months at Palace was massively important because he had to get games at the Premier League level to adapt to it and then prove he could excel at it. There's nobody who's directly jumped. Like Dan James would look great in the Championship with Swansea, and then went to United. Started well and then fell off a cliff, and everybody realised he can only really run fast. He can't do anything else. That's why you just don't do it. You don't make those type of moves. It's frustrating, yes, but unless you're buying that player at 18 or 19 and you're bringing them in to be a squad player, you just don't make that move. And it's one thing buying Morton for 18 million or buying Michael Olise for 8 million as opposed to Somerville, who's probably going to be like a 35 million player at 22, 23 and needs to be playing regularly but isn't good enough to come in and play regularly for us. There's one player in the Championship right now that we should be targeting. It's Archie Gray. He will cost a lot, but he will be worth it. But he doesn't need to come in and start every game because he's 18. It's a different situation than the Somerville situation. Archie Gray you buy, Somerville you don't. Let Somerville go to a club where he's going to play every game, where he's more fitted to the level that they're at, and then maybe in 2 years you take a look at him. But ultimately you probably don't. Because there's always going to be better out there. And stop getting Jonathan Morley to write stuff for you. Jesus Lord wept. On to AnfieldIndex.com. Joe Cole has praised Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones. Paul Gorst has bigged up Brian and Bono. I do just feel like we could do a lot better. I like him. I do just feel like we could do a lot better. There's a piece about Anthony Patterson. There's a piece about Alan Varela. A piece about Arnie Slot. Then, podcast-wise, there is the Transfer Committee pod, which is Harry with myself, Dan Kennett and Mo. Part 2. Part 1 was we went through the whole squad and did a keep sell loan. I've also done one with Carl. That was just mostly Carl, though. So do go and listen to the Transfer Committee pod. Part 3 will be out next week. There is a new Buzz podcast out. Myself and Trev did Unforgiven, which is one of the great films, and I think that's one of the best podcasts we've done. There is the new EPL Index Market Metrics pod, which is basically we're moving Stat Me Up for the summer anyway over to EPL to have more, and we're kind of combining it with the Transfer Metrics show that Dave Davis did with Phil Barter, and combining them together to make one new podcast on EPL Index. So it is Dave Davis, it is Ben Boksak. It's talking about Benjamin Sesko, Milos Kerkez, Mamardashvili, Conor Gallagher, and, you know, potential value of those players in the market. So do give that a listen. That is going to be ongoing once a week. Tadiwa is going to have a daily show, I think, for 4 weeks, which is basically he's going to predict next season for each club, you know, kind of delve into certain things. So do check that out. We have a new Scouted, which I think is coming out today, where we start to look at the Euros. And we've recorded today, myself and Trev, the next edition of Buzz, which will come out over the weekend, where we take a look at Robin Williams, a second part to our Robin Williams look. This one focusing on Goodwill Hunting, 1 Hour Photo, and Insomnia, the more serious side to Robin Williams. So do check those out. Listen to all the Buzz podcasts because they're great. So listen to them all immediately, if not sooner. And I will see you all on Monday. Enjoy your weekends. Take care of yourselves. What are we going to do with no football? Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.